People who have met their online friends, what made you instantly regret it? I used to play Counter-Strike 1.6 with one of the funniest and most lively guys I've ever met. He was a linchpin for half a dozen other guys in a friendship group that he welcomed me into. They lived about 200 miles south of me in the south of England. For several years we talked and played games together. He would brighten my day. I've never loved a friend like I loved him. Before I met him, I had no idea he was sick. Like, really sick. He had muscular dystrophy, for which there is no cure, and is a progressively debilitating disease. His form started by paralyzing his legs and working its way up to his arms and eventually his lungs. It wasn't until a few days before I had arranged for my first ever trip down there that he told me about it. It didn't faze me in the slightest. It made me want to go see him even more. I only saw him in real life twice before he died about a year later. I regret that I couldn't go to his funeral. It was too far away and I couldn't make it. I actually worked with this lady at the time. She was good looking and very flirtatious. Most importantly, we both played World of Warcraft at its prime. She ended up inviting me to join her server, and being a then horny 20-something, I, of course, joined up. We played for a time and had a good PvP group going. Her regulars. Of course she was still flirty with me in game, and I was back, all in group chat. Either way, we had some great times together slaying players in PvP. Summer comes and it's a company BBQ. I find out she is bringing one of our PvP partners to the event. Cool. It was her husband, a cop. I've been virtually sexting her in game in front of him for 3 months. My friends and I met him playing League of Legends and turns out he only lived about an hour away. He insisted on being referred to by his in-game name when in person, and made a big deal of it whenever someone called him by his real name. He got freakishly obsessive and possessive. Met online through a fandom. After a few years the fandom pretty much fell apart, but a handful of us stayed friends because we actually had a fair amount in common. D was very normal, the rest of the group seemed to love him. About 4 years after just being online mates we met in person. It went fine. We interacted a lot on FB and Instagram. I hit a really busy period in my life, but managed to squeeze in a Christmas get together at my place for my little group of friends including D. After that my online activity decreased drastically due to being busy, and when I managed to get on FB I noticed that most of the group were no longer friends with D. Weird, but whatever. I checked my messenger and saw message after message after message asking why I wasn't responding. What was I doing? Could we arrange a meetup etc. I explained I was super busy and it was also coming up to the anniversary of my mum's death, so just give me some time and we'll see about meeting up another time. He said, oh yeah, I forgot about the anniversary, you can have that day, but I expect a response after. Fuck that. I blocked him. So he sent email after email after email asking me what is your fucking problem, what the fuck do you think you're doing etc. So I blocked his email too. After 3 very peaceful weeks there was a knock on my door. It was D, and he had a 6-page letter detailing why we had to be friends. I shut the door, used an anonymous email thing to tell him if he contacted me again / showed up at my door I would call the police. Went on FB and told everyone, including the 2 remaining mutual friends, about it all, and could the mutuals not share anything about me / my life and actively discourage him from attempting to make contact. The friends who had long since unfriended him started messaging me that they stopped talking to him because of how creepy he was being in PMs about me, always asking if they knew what I was doing. Had I talked to them? Was I seeing anyone? Was I actually busy? Because he was convinced wasn't, etc. In return I told them how he'd been trying to convince me to stop being friends with them because according to him they were all sorts of horrible things, and that they were incredibly jealous and hated how close he and I were. I assumed he was just butthurt because they stopped talking to him, so was just making up a bunch of crap about these people who had always been perfectly nice to me. One incredibly weird occurrence just before this all happened was me telling a mutual on FB that I was heading to the aquarium in London with my daughter. Mutual friend was also in London that day with their daughter, and maybe we could grab a coffee / let the kids play in the park for a bit. I checked my messages later that evening and he was incredibly upset because he'd waited at Farringdon station exit for 2 hours so he could come to the aquarium too, and I didn't show up. We did not get off at that station, but one that was 2 stops after and closer to where we were going. I haven't heard a peep in over a year. He has apparently deleted his FB and Instagram and thankfully just disappeared. I was 13 and had a 20-year-old pen pal in Hong Kong, both of us female. We met on Tumblr and emailed each other regularly. My parents' work said in all our correspondence, ABD we basically just talked about our cultures. About a year of us talking went by, and she said that her university allowed her to study abroad in Europe for a semester and she chose my country. Fun. I was excited. However, some time went by and our friendship kinda faded, to the point where I had forgotten she was even coming to my country. About 2 weeks before she was supposed to come, she emailed me that her student accommodation had to be cleaned out, so she couldn't access it on the night that she arrived. She needed a place to stay for one night. I asked my mom, and she agreed to pick her up from the airport with me, and she could stay with us for one night. I mean, we trusted this girl. I was very open about my friendship with her. We had pictures and everything. So 2 weeks later, we pick her up from the airport, and we didn't click. She kinda annoyed me, but it was late, and so we just went home. We get home and get her settled. We went up to my room. She gave me some presents, and we chat a little bit. She says thanks for letting me stay here this semester. Huh? Excuse me? This semester? I asked her, like, what do you mean? You can stay here tonight. We can see each other during the weekends if you want to hang out, but you can't stay here. She goes quiet. We go to sleep. At this point I just wanted her to go away, and I got what I wanted. The next morning I wake up, and she's gone. I don't even know how she got out, because we lock the doors at night, but she just vanished. Her suitcase was still there. I tried calling her, she didn't pick up. She eventually texted me, asking if my mother could drop off her suitcase at a train station 40 minutes away at a certain time. My mother brought the suitcase, and that was that. Never seen her, or spoken to her again after that. It was my friend who befriended this girl, and she allowed us to come and stay with her when we traveled to the US. She was rude to me instantly and kept my friend away from me. I'd go upstairs, and she'd find a reason for them to go downstairs. She had my friend share her bedroom, and she'd lock the door for hours, and so I'd just go off and do my own thing. We met at 2 friends and they both ignored me. When it was time for my friend and I to move on to another state, she insisted on coming with us. The lady we stayed with in another state took no shit and called this girl out on her strange behavior. She proceeded to lock herself in a room and demanded my friend stay in there with her. They were in there all day and eventually my friend came out and said to me that there's something wrong with this girl and she's actually scared. We had plans to stay with another online friend in another state and this girl demanded we cancel because she doesn't like or trust this other friend. We said no, this is our holiday and we'd paid for flights, and she said then she will come with us, but we can't meet up this other friend. We said no, she cried, we left. My friend blocked her on everything. My friend's mother called us not long after saying this girl contacted her crying, saying my friend is in danger and we abandoned her and she's so concerned for my friend's safety. It was actually incredibly scary. My friend found out later from another girl, they all knew each other from a forum, that this girl had been telling everyone they were in love and had even slept together. I don't know how much of that is true, but I've known my friend for 20 years now and she's never identified as anything but straight. She denied it 100%. This girl was just obsessed with her, and months later my friend heard this girl was telling everyone she was saving money to come to our country to find my friend. She never did, thankfully. Other than the time spent with this girl, we had a great holiday and made some good friends. When I was 19 I jumped on a flight to meet a friend I had known for about 4 to 5 months. We both went through family bereavements and were a shoulder to cry on for each other via the phone or internet, and we just decided to meet for a few days in a country between us. Until then everything had been perfect. She was the coolest girl, really smart, the kind of person you want to be around all the time. When we met things started great, but a day later she confessed, "You're not what I expected." What? 19-year-old, and not very confident. This knocked me sideways. I don't know, just, you seem different. I never hid who I was before we met, was completely open, and it put a real sour taste on the rest of my time with her. Instead of chatting non-stop and watching Jackass on TV in the hotel at night, we went quiet and straight to sleep, ate in silence. I put as much effort as I could into it, but I still never got to the bottom of how I was different. We went our separate ways, text for a few days then never spoke again.